The last broadcast. 1. Dead air. The static crackled louder than usual that night. Mara sat alone in the KZRP 99.3 FM studio, lights dimmed, the clock ticking past midnight. The storm outside had kicked up sometime around 11:30, and with it came an eerie silence between songs. The kind that made you feel like something else was listening. She adjusted her headphones and leaned into the mic. This is Mara Lane, keeping you company through the witching hour. Stay warm, stay safe, and stay tuned. She cued another song, Fleetwood Mac's Dreams, a classic, and leaned back. Her eyes wandered to the wall of old photographs behind the console. DJs from years past, all smiling, frozen in time. One photo had always unsettled her, a man in a 1940s military jacket, face pale, eyes too intense. No name beneath it. Just a date, October 31st, 1947. The hairs on the back of her neck rose. A crack of thunder jolted her, and the power flickered. The song warped mid-note, slowing like a dying tape. Then, silence. Dead air. She scrambled to reboot the system, heart thumping. The backup generator kicked in with a low growl, and the lights flickered back to life. But the system still showed nothing. No signal. No playlist. Just a blinking cursor. Then came the voice. It wasn't from her headphones. It was in the studio. Are you listening now? 2. The voice behind the glass. Mara froze. She turned slowly toward the recording booth behind the glass. Empty. The mic was off. The red on-air light glowed like an eye. She ripped off her headphones. Hello, she called, her voice brittle. Silence. She scanned the studio. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Then her console lit up. Incoming audio transmission. She hadn't cued anything. Her hands trembled as she hovered over the mouse. The screen pulsed. A single file name, Vox_1947.wave. She clicked it. The recording was scratchy, warped with age. A man's voice, deep and slow, echoed through the studio. This is Captain Ezra Black, formerly of the 9th Infantry. If you're hearing this, the station's already been taken. Don't trust their voices. Don't trust the signal. They're not dead. They're listening. Mara's breath caught. The voice matched the photo. The man in the military jacket. The storm howled louder outside. The windows rattled. From the hallway, she heard footsteps. 3. Signal interference. She shut off the feed. Grabbing her phone, she dialed 911. No signal. She tried texting. Nothing. The storm must have knocked out the towers. The footsteps grew louder, deliberate. Slow. One after the other. She reached under the desk and pulled out the emergency flashlight. Its weak beam illuminated the hallway beyond the studio door. Nobody there. Then a shadow crossed the wall. Someone was outside. Watching. She locked the door and backed away. The knob jiggled. Thump. Thump. They weren't trying to get in. They were letting her know they were there. The console blinked again. Incoming broadcast. Unauthorized signal. The screen went black. Then a face appeared. Not human. Eyes too large, skin ashen and stretched. It stared at her through the monitor. You opened the signal, it whispered. Now we are tuned. Mara screamed. 4. Archives. She fled the studio, flashlight trembling in her grip. The hallway stretched longer than usual, lit only by the flickering emergency lights. She didn't remember it being this long. She made her way to the archive room, where decades of old reels and tapes were stored. The door was ajar. Inside, the air was colder. She stepped in. Rows of shelves towered above her, lined with old reel-to-reel tapes, some dating back to the 1940s. Dust thick on everything. She grabbed one at random, dated October October 30th, 1947. The day before the unnamed DJ's final broadcast. She found an old tape player and hit play. The voice returned. They arrive through the signal. Like static, they slip in. First the voices, then the faces. They wore my friends. Wore their voices like masks. I tried to cut the power. But they're already in the wires. Thunder boomed. The lights flickered again. Something moved in the shadows behind the shelves. She turned. Nothing. Then, a face stared at her through the shelf slats. Pale, grinning. Eyes too large. She ran. 5. The basement. The stairs groaned as she descended into the basement, the oldest part of the station. The walls were brick, the air damp and sour. At the bottom, a heavy steel door stood half open. Beyond it, the original broadcast station. Long defunct. Old equipment covered in sheets. A massive radio tower control panel dominated the room. She stepped inside. The signal buzzed in her ears. Not through speakers. In her head. Then she saw it. A figure slumped in the corner. Wearing a tattered 1940s uniform. The same man from the photo. Captain Ezra Black. Dead. But his eyes were open. And blinking. She backed away. His mouth moved. They never left, he rasped. Only needed a host. The overhead lights exploded. 6. Possession. Darkness swallowed the room. She fumbled for her flashlight. When it flicked back on, Ezra was standing. But his movements weren't human. Twitchy. Wrong. You broadcast them, he said, voice layered with others. Now they can tune in. Mara turned and ran, but the hallway twisted. No longer brick. The walls pulsed like flesh. Lights flickered in patterns, Morse code. Repeating one word. Stay. She stumbled into a control room. The equipment was still active. Somehow, the feed was live. Her own face stared back from the monitor. Except it wasn't her. The smile was wrong. Too wide. The eyes too black. She looked into the glass. Help me, she whispered. The reflection didn't move. 7. The signal spreads. She realized what was happening. The signal wasn't just some rogue transmission. It was alive. A parasite, using audio waves to infect, first minds, then bodies. Ezra had tried to warn them. He'd trapped the signal in the archives. But now, she'd played it. And it was loose again. She had to end the broadcast. She raced back upstairs, dodging shadows that whispered in voices she recognized. Her mother, her old boss, her ex-boyfriend. All dead. All speaking in perfect mimicry. She reached the main studio. The console was active again. Broadcasting live. The file, vox_live.wave. The face on the screen turned toward her. Time to share the frequency, it said. 8. White noise. She grabbed the fire axe from the emergency kit. Without hesitation, she brought it down on the console. Sparks flew. The screen shattered. The feed went dead. Then, silence. Real silence. She waited. No voices. No shadows. Just the storm. Then the emergency lights blinked out, one by one. And something began crawling through the broken speakers. 9. The last song. Mara dragged a cabinet in front of the door and locked herself in the soundproof booth. She grabbed a reel of music and loaded it into the old analog system, completely offline. Fleetwood Mac's Dreams began to play again. She spoke into the mic. If anyone is out there, don't listen to the static. Don't trust the voices. This is Mara Lane, signing off. She killed the mic. Then sat in silence, staring at the broken door. The shadows gathered on the other side. But they couldn't reach her, not as long as she didn't broadcast. She closed her eyes. And waited. 10. Epilogue, Reboot. 2 weeks later, a new DJ arrived at KZRP. The storm had passed. The studio had been repaired. Mara Lane was gone. No trace. No sign of struggle. Just a single message on the console. Silence is safe. The new DJ chuckled. Probably some spooky Halloween prank. He queued up the playlist and hit play. The speakers crackled. And the voice returned.